let me introduce to the wonderful Evan Sutter. He is a coach and also founder of Hapsley, an organisation creating tools and initiatives to help make the world happier. And he has a wonderful book, Awake, and which he is going to come up now and share with you this idea being human can be hard. Thank you. I pass.
Thank you. Being human is hard. Anyone who has ever lived can say yes on some level to life and its ups and downs. And between the ongoing adjustments of living through a global pandemic, the less obvious impacts of climate change and technology, rising tensions in Russia, Ukraine, China, Palestine, rent, house prices, floods, everywhere we are coming to terms with a new and rapidly changing world. Philosopher Epictetus believed our greatest sufferings are born out of a failure to distinguish what is in our control and what is not. But do we put too much focus on an external world which is unpredictable and fragile by nature, while too often neglecting our internal one which just might need more care and attention than ever before? Because it is easier than ever to distract ourselves from what is uncomfortable and to run away from our suffering. Our fast-paced, modern, uber-connected, disconnected world, which can easily turn human beings into consumers, community into competition, purpose into profit, preys on the lost and distracted. It helps create the lost and distracted. So perhaps now is the perfect time to stop. Buddhist monk and Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh had great faith in the healing power of simply stopping. To pause, to take a meaningful time out to assess if what we are wanting and how we are living is actually helping us to live an engaged, connected, and meaningful life. This talk, like my new book Awake, is about choosing to live fully and cultivating a rich inner world to help combat a fickle and ever-changing outer one. But before we go there, why bother listening to me? Because I'm not a psychologist or an academic. And if it wasn't for my experiences living in Thich Nhat Hanh's Plum Village, I certainly wouldn't be here. That was almost 9 years ago, when I was well entrenched in the pleasure trap, chasing after my happiness and sense of belonging in external things: sex, drugs, money, athletic performance. It was in France, languishing in my loneliness and boredom, where Thich Nhat Hanh taught me how to walk, how to drink tea, how to enjoy simplicity, and how to care. There, I learned about Buddhism and mindfulness, and I became fascinated why the monks were so happy with so little, while at home it seemed the polar opposite. These experiences took me on a journey combining research on well-being from a psychology lens with ideas from the East, my love for philosophy and health, and my work as an activist creating social and environmental initiatives. These experiences changed something in me that I needed to share and led to my new book Awake and 4 important foundations for waking up to life. Or as philosopher Nietzsche might put it, 4 foundations to avoid the unlived life, to move away from a preoccupation with trivial concerns and to live boldly and fully. First foundation, exploration. Socrates said an unexamined life is not worth living. And he compared living without thinking to practicing pottery without any technical know-how. We wouldn't expect to create a great pot, so I think the far more complicated task of one's entire life could be undertaken without enough deep thought and serious reflection. Looking back, I can see why I was so unfulfilled before I made it to Plum Village, because I made exploration purely an external thing, and that can leave us scratching on the surface and never far beyond it. This internal-external conflict is so clear when I compare 2 of my biggest overseas adventures. One in this old 1983 Bedford, surfing down the coast of Europe into Africa for 12 months, and the other, 3 months living in this rundown hut in a Buddhist monastery. The hut was like the Bedford with no wheels to simply steer away from the unpleasant. Psychiatrist Carl Jung says our suffering comes from a failure to understand and feel the unseen and unheard parts of our psyches. But when we're always moving and running from one task or place to another, grabbing our phones or turning on our TVs every time we have a moment of idleness or discomfort, we never get the chance to stop and explore our lives. And maybe the best exploration happens when we aren't moving at all. Because life is hard. And maybe being human means knowing how to meet the hard parts and find peace. For whatever we are experiencing in the present moment is our life. If it is boredom, what can I learn from this boredom? Anger, fear, restlessness, and the rest are telling us something about our relationship to life. Distracting and avoiding them only make them more tenacious. Poet von Goethe said, "Plunge boldly into the thick of life and seize it where you will. It is always interesting." We see life as interesting, not perfect, not in always changing it to suit us. And maybe it is this that can take our lives from yet another goal, rigid and one-dimensional, to more a piece of art, open and playful. Knowing everything, or thinking we do, stifles our curiosity, then ironically limits our possibilities. And the best example of this comes from my great friend Lou. Lou is 85. I met him on the tennis court behind my old apartment in San Francisco. We became great friends on and off the court, and Lou taught me how to grow old well, how important interests are, lifelong learning, engagement, meaning, positive relationships. He was like Martin Seligman's PERMA model in motion. He also taught me two things I never gave much thought to: creativity and playfulness. Over the pandemic, while many complained of loneliness and boredom, Lou didn't complain the courts were closed. Instead, he got creative and playful. He started playing Tenshi. He maybe even created it. He brought the court to his driveway, combining the practice of his tennis strokes with the soft movements of Tai Chi. He's playful, he's creative, he's interested, he's alive. And we can all dive deeper into our own exploration by simply asking ourselves new questions and bravely hanging around long enough to feel them. Who are the people who inspire you? What qualities about them do you admire? We can examine what a really great day looks like and see if we can create the conditions for them to happen more often. What do we love? What are we passionate about? What makes us happy? We can identify our values, stopping to see how they present themselves in everyday life and seeing if these are the things that our loved ones see in us. We can stretch ourselves and try something new. We can be like Lou. We forget how to create healthy joy. Kids don't, but we get old and do. Just try one thing this week that scares you, if it stretches your mind, tests your limits. A headstand, a language or cooking class, jumping in the ocean, or just saying hi to the person you always walk past. By just putting ourselves in new situations, you get to see how we feel and why we feel it. This is me last week diving into the cold ocean in the most southern part of Australia. Just try one new thing this week. Second foundation, know yourself. It was Aristotle who said knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And maybe it is this wisdom that teaches us to take greater responsibility for our choices so we become less a product of our environment and more a creator of it. In each moment, it is fascinating to observe just how many choices we are making. These choices shape our lives, our character, our capacities. And the Greek philosophers, many of them said that this is the most important teaching, know yourself. But how? We can only know someone by spending a lot of time with them. And this is just as true for ourselves. But when was the last time we spent a lot of time by ourselves without a friend's phone, TV, laptop, or some other form of entertainment? These entertainments have become covers so we never actually have to feel how we feel. And I think in order to be truly happy or truly alive, which is often undervalued but might just be the more important, alive while you're alive, we need to throw away the distractions and explore what it is we feel. This is how we get to know ourselves. And we need to, because with limited time, busy and tired, it is easy to be lured into the buy my happiness culture in the pursuit of feeling good quickly. But this can become a type of grasping, a reaching out, or pushing away. And when we don't feel good or always yearn for safety or comfort, we just tend to grasp even more, and we don't leave much room for anything else. This also means that we don't experience. In choosing things over experiences again and again, we do our happiness and our planet a tremendous disservice. In the process, we become disconnected from ourselves and disconnected from creating wholesome joy. But why would anyone be encouraged to explore their inner worlds when often we are told to chase other things, when it's not that valued in our modern society, and when it can't so easily be shared on social media? Why not just buy another thing online at a click of a button when it makes us feel good? And I wish I found this out earlier. I wish I experienced it earlier. And that is that the beauty found in the peace and contentment of not always yearning, not always desiring, is far more fulfilling and far more satisfying than any feeling we get from actually acquiring something or even achieving something. This is the tranquility or ataraxia that Epicurus was so interested in. And in Buddhism, tranquility is one of the 7 factors of awakening, or one of the 7 precious treasures. One leaves us always wanting more and always living from a place of lack. The other leaves us full of the joy, peace, calm, and contentment, but the other will always be seeking. A mind of clarity and awareness allows us to act in ways that better reflect our true feelings rather than acting out of fear or emotions that we cannot really understand. We become less dependent on external sources to make us happy, and that is powerful. We understand the effects of superficial desires and can see that satisfying our cravings only ever offer short-term relief. And relief is nice, but it can become like a band-aid that we need again and again, a type of pseudo-solution so we can keep on doing all the same things that cause the problems in the first place. We can dive deeper into getting to know ourselves with a simple how am I writing meditation each morning. We say, how are you to everyone around us, but do we ever really answer it for ourselves? By opening up this simple conversation, we can see if certain things are weighing us down, certain times, places, or people are affecting us more than we know. We can and we should benefit from creating a tech-free zone. One night this week at least without your phone, TV, or laptop. Why is tech-free time important? Psychiatrist Gabor Mate says our tolerance to negative and uncomfortable emotions becomes lower every time we reach for a phone or remote. By constantly depending on our devices for distraction, our tolerance for those uncomfortable emotions becomes significantly compromised, and our ability to regulate and identify our emotions becomes significantly diminished. We need to be super skillful in using technology for the reason it was developed, and teaching our young ones to use it for the reason it was developed, and not just use it as a tool for our emotional connection or attachment needs. For too many people, this is replacing real human connection and only taking us further away from knowing who we are and what we ought to be doing with this life. And it's not just about giving things up. It's about taking things up. One of the less talked about impacts of technology is it takes away our interests. And I'm yet to meet a vibrant individual who doesn't have many of them. In the monastery, we did regular lazy days, and I still do now. They're beautiful, powerful, and pretty radical in our modern lives. Third foundation, meaning. Philosopher Heidegger and even psychiatrist Irving Yalom talk about these 2 modes of existence. Everyday mode, where we turn towards quickly fading distractions around physical appearance and possessions, and ontological mode, where we can start to grapple with deeper questions encompassing meaning and self-fulfillment. And I can see personally always being absorbed entirely in my surroundings led to me falling prey to outside noise and only took me further away from constructing what resembled an authentic life. And our modern world makes cultivating authenticity that much more difficult, but that much more important. You only have to turn on your TV, your phone, walk down the street to be bombarded by an abundance of well-placed stories that tell us that we always need to be something more, better, different. Trillion-dollar industries are built on the idea that we always need to be bettering ourselves and others. So what should one do? I'm not so sure, but in the least, finding contentment and joy wherever you are is probably a wise thing. For if we're always racing ahead, when do we ever get beyond merely doing? And interestingly, in many indigenous tribes, they saw competition outside of a few certain realms as a sign of mental ill health. And today, where doesn't competition extend to? Thich Nhat Hanh said, letting go gives us freedom. And freedom is the only condition for our happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, possessions, we cannot be free. When we let go of how we hope things will be and become more content with how they really are, we can start to answer those more important questions with more calm and composure. Meaning for me was born out of this awareness, this curiosity of how all the things around me influence my choices and therefore my life. How many of those are my own, or how many are just merely a product of my schooling, media, advertising or TV shows I consumed, all inadvertently teaching me that things outside of me are the key to living a good life. When I stepped outside merely doing mode, I also stepped away from all those I'll be happy when scenarios too. You know, the ones when you get a better job, make more money, get a nice partner. And it really helped bring those things like joy and tranquility, a truly precious treasure, into the now. It gave me added direction and confidence and really softened my worry about what other people think of me. Competition and comparison are two vital ingredients for living a small, lackluster life. There is no contentment in comparison. And maybe meaning is our guiding light that ignites, but only when we have given ourselves the time and space to explore to the point where we can trust in our sense of self enough to let it lead the way. Irving Yalom says, however helpful ideas may be, they are vitally empowered by intimate connections with other people. And a great way to do this, which helps with our meaning, is watering flowers. Think of a friend, a family member, a colleague, and thank them, compliment them, say something nice about them. This is simple yet powerful. Because we are good at seeing our faults, having others recognize our goodness helps us grow. And it helps both people because doing an act of kindness releases our feel-good chemicals while satisfying our need for connection. We boost positive emotions through appreciation and gratitude, which leads to higher functioning people. And I want to share with you now of a flower I attempted to water just last week. And remember, this is quite different, so it can take a little bit of time. Hey mate, just wanted to let you know that I'm lucky to have such a good friend like you. I know I can always count on you for your support and kindness. And here's his reply. You okay, mate? These things can take some time. They're different, but doesn't mean they're not important. And then this. Thanks, man. Appreciate your message. It means a lot. It's been a tough week. You just made it better. When we show compassion and vulnerability, we boost connection and trust, and we feel good. What if I told you that my friend here is a 110-kilo former professional rugby league player, big and tough? So we also help break down dangerous and unhealthy perceptions of what strength and masculinity really is. And a beautiful ripple takes shape. And it is a ripple. Researchers from Yale University closely monitored around 5,000 people living in a town in Massachusetts for more than 3 decades. They found that when someone was happy or sad, that emotion rippled throughout the entire town. So if we all water a flower after this talk, we can make thousands of people feel a little bit better. The fourth and final foundation, presence. We may struggle to find peace in our busy lives if we don't prioritize it. It's a clash of two contrasting worlds, and typically the louder, faster, more common one will prevail. But can we create patches of peace every day so as the external world continues in its unpredictable way, we are still enjoying our lives? When we can enjoy each simple moment, it becomes such an empowering experience. It heightens our senses. We see more, hear more, and feel more, and all of life's seemingly insignificant things become significant. And that's life-changing. And yes, it's easy to let the busyness of our modern lives become stress and anxiety. But I've found again and again that if we train our attention and take responsibility for it, we become less dispersed and wake up to all moments of life. What if we paid attention? We may be sharing a lovely conversation with a dear friend, but then at the same time notice our mind thinking about what we are having for dinner after. And yes, that's the nature of the busy mind, but it not only zaps our zest and energy for life, but it prevents us from truly hearing our friend and thus truly being a friend. In every moment, we have a choice. And I've found that aliveness, that life, doesn't start on the edge of a cliff, and it's not found in a van surfing around Europe. And it's not always productivity and action, but it can be found right here in the silence, in the conversation, in the discomfort. The trick is choosing to be present, to wake up, to reaffirm our presence when it will be so much easier to ruminate and lose ourselves in fantasy. And many studies show that a wandering mind, a ruminating mind, is an unhappy one. That is why all the practices ask us to arrive right here, wherever we are. And maybe that is why we learn mindfulness. As Thich Nhat Hanh would often say, so we can be good gardeners. So we can develop the capacity to see which seeds we need to sow, what flowers we need to water, and allow the sun to shine in a way that makes our garden beautiful. Recognizing the seeds of anger, fear, craving, infatuation, and cultivating our good qualities. And of course, the benefits for mindfulness and meditation don't end there, as the research from Daniel Goleman into the science of meditation shows, that meditators are less reactive to stress. They bounce back from peak stress to calm faster and have less inflammation as a result, which is a key factor in many long-term chronic diseases. Again, we see that everything connects to everything else. Health, relationships, technology, society and culture, consumerism. And we cannot look at anything as if it appears in isolation. And amongst the many other benefits for meditators, us and them thinking diminishes. We become more open, more compassionate, more generous, and we can be more present for others suffering without tuning out. So we tend to our garden while looking after the gardens of those around us too. And my favorite way to do this is walking meditation. We walk every day, if we are lucky enough, to the office, to the Uber, maybe even to a meditation class. Why wait till you get to class, or why practice sitting meditation every morning if you don't integrate it into your everyday life? Walking meditation is a vehicle to be more alive, more curious, more engaged all the time. We breathe in, we take a step. We breathe out, we take another step. In theory, it is very simple. In practice, it's a little bit more difficult. But we don't wait until we arrive somewhere to be happy. We learn to be happy on the way. We feel our feet touching the ground again and again. We feel the breeze kissing our face and we relax. We notice the thinking and also all the things around us that can calm it down. Too often we sit and try to outthink our problems. That is difficult and tiring. We need to learn how to step outside the noise and clutter, to reconnect with our bodies, to calm our minds, to come out the other end feeling refreshed and reinvigorated. We walk as a vehicle to enrich our lives. In fact, everything gives us this opportunity. So I dedicate this talk and my book Awake to everyone who is bold enough to take the time to learn skills that can enrich their lives and the lives of those around them. After all, an adventure, an exploration, a journey, and learning about ourselves and the world around us should be fun and continue in each moment. If we stay curious, creative, interested, and playful, we allow ourselves the chance to open up to a bewildering palette of possibilities and to an abundance of beautiful, insignificant moments. Thank you.